Well, hi everyone. I'm Andy Asher. I'm editor of Bloomer Boomer. We are online, packaged full of cool stuff for all of us over 50. And I say over 50, which is in many ways simply a measuring stick of life. It doesn't really mean anything more than that. We are getting older. That's kind of what it means to me. But I have to admit, today's show is kind of a big exception to what I just said. So as I contradict myself now, just think about it a little bit. What dating was like for us when we were in our 20s, it's a whole lot different than now as we get into our 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s and beyond. And today's guest is perfect to consider that contradiction in lifestyle. She is Marnie Kinrys, otherwise known as Wing Girl, with her hundreds of thousands of men who read her top-rated blog, Wing Girl Method. What a perfect topic to tie into the Bloomer Boomer catchphrase, Good Life Movement plus 50. Now, we'll talk with Marnie in just a moment. Now, the shows are live on Facebook, YouTube. Some are recorded, and all are on the bloomerboomer.com website. You can catch our live shows 3 days a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, 1 p.m. Central Time. And the shows are part of a movement for new and evolving things that make for a good life plus 50, part of the Bloomer Boomer Project. The shows are about what works well and what's not, how to make the best of it, and in the end, hopefully, something you can take away for yourself. Our guests are idea and thought leaders, experts, people with life experiences to emulate or can learn from, folks with a unique expertise, or those that just give us one of those aha moments of a revelation that can suddenly transform the complex and the bewildering into what becomes the understandable. So our topic today, dating past 50. Hang in there for just a minute. We'll be right back with Marnie Kinrys, creator of Wing Girl Method. Marnie Kinrys, thanks for being with us. I notice a lot of dating coaches out there are focusing on helping women, but you chose to help us in the male gender. Supposedly it's normally about guys, telling other guys the tricks of the trade.
Yeah.
What attracted you to this mystifying world of dating in the first place?
Well, to be honest, when I was younger, I used to help all my guy friends get girls and not be jerks with girls and treat them poorly, because I'm a woman. I would obviously not want to pass on that behavior to other women, but I would help them understand the things that women would do and would say that would completely confuse them. And I would also help them boost their confidence with women and become more attractive. So I always had the knack to be able to do that. And I always leaned towards advising men because as a woman myself, I was kind of confused about men, so I don't think that I could ever have advised women back then. But knowing what I know in my own mind and what I do in my own dating, I was able to pass on that information to my guy friends. And all of them had said to me, you should do this professionally. I always shrugged it off, didn't think anything of it. And then when I moved out to Los Angeles, I was at a singles mixer at a rabbi's house randomly. And nobody was talking to each other. So I started grabbing men and starting conversations with women that were there at the event and facilitating the conversations and helping these guys talk to them and facilitate a wonderful, fun conversation. And by the end of the night, people were interacting, they were making out with each other, they were exchanging phone numbers. And I went home and said, I want to be a wing girl and I do want to do this professionally now. And then I put an ad on Craigslist and I had lots of people respond. And then it just started happening. And that was 13 years ago. And since then, the knowledge that I have is now backed up from my interviews with nearly 5,000 women, with science, biology, learning from other experts as well. And and I love helping men become better men for women, because in all honesty, selfishly, this makes a better life for myself and other women out there if men and women can understand each other better.
You know, I've been somewhat envious of guys that had sisters because it seems
Yeah.
like
They get it.
that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
you say, "Hey, sis, I just met somebody and I think I blew it. What did I do wrong here?" Or give me the secrets behind being a better guy to pick up girls and so forth. And so you kind of become that big sister or that little sister for the guys out there.
Yeah, for sure. The one thing that is a negative for a lot of guys who do have sisters is those guys are wonderful in relationships because they know how to read moods, tell when certain things are going on each month. They can understand those things and aren't thrown off guard by it, but they have a lot of difficulty in the beginning stages of attraction because, and it's not a negative reason, because they've learned for so long to respect and be sensitive towards women and not step over certain boundaries. Plus, they have girls in their lives, so they know how they want those women being treated. It makes it difficult for them to learn how to also create attraction, be playful, walk on that edge a little bit more with women. So it makes them into wonderful partners, but sometimes it's a little bit harder in the first few interactions of dating to get them to tap into their sexier side and create attraction for women. But yes, I completely agree with you that it's a wonderful thing that they have access to women and what they're thinking and feeling so they can navigate that world.
What an interesting observation. I would have never thought of that, but yeah, you look at other women in some ways the way you looked at your sister, and
Right.
So when we are in our 20s, the landscape and the priorities are so totally different than when we're over 50. As we grow up, there are deal
And
break-
the energy levels.
and what?
And the energy levels and
True.
are totally different.
Absolutely, and there are these deal breakers, that start to loom larger and larger on the horizon, and what may have been, a great partner possibility decades ago doesn't get a second look today. So
Right.
dating becomes more complicated. Do you see it that way or not?
I actually see that it becomes less complicated. It becomes more difficult in the area that a lot of people are really satisfied with who they are and the life that they have currently. So when you're younger, you're out and about, you're socializing with people, you're constantly meeting new people, you're bringing people into your life, you're shoving them out of your life, you're still figuring yourself out and what your surroundings should be. When you are older, you have your surroundings, you're very comfortable, and you're pretty good on your own. So it can become difficult to let somebody else in. But having said that, you're also very knowledgeable as to who you are, maybe not so knowledgeable as to what you will want as a partner and in your life. But again, double-edged sword. It's great because you know who you are, and it's negative because you know who you are and you're fine by yourself. But there are differences at any age level for somebody who's been in a relationship for a long time and then getting out of a relationship, either from divorce or a breakup, which a lot of the clients that I work with are either, like a lot of the people who write to me who are over 50 are getting divorced and starting over. So being single after a long time is difficult. Or they are sadly, a widow and they're starting their lives over, but they still have this strong tie and guilt to this other person. So those are the major differences and the biggest challenges that I find for people later in life, that they're entering into a whole new life for themselves and dating as opposed to just comparing it to their 20s and 50s.
Yeah, that is, and as a person who did go through divorce and went back into the dating world, I realized what I had been, my education was long gone, and
how do you swipe right? I don't know how to do
yeah,
it.
that's
what
it.
is this?
So that's something you can, I guess, give little insights to. Sometimes you never find out until you start going to some singles bar and realizing, oh man, this is different.
Yeah. Well, even my girlfriend who lives across the street, she's 40, so a little bit younger than your category, but in a very similar place. She's recently divorced, and she's been in a relationship since she was 24 years old. She is used to relying on somebody, being in a relationship with somebody who responds to her really fast, who doesn't really play games, is very straight with what he wants. So that was the pattern that she was in. She was in relationship mode. So when she first started interacting with all these people and they weren't talking with her every single day, or they weren't responding to her fairly quickly, she was like, what is it with all this BS? Why are these people playing games? And I was like, they're not playing games. They just have lives that don't include you yet. And you're trying to work into that space by seeing if you connect. And as you connect more, they'll invest more in you. But you're in relationship mode, so you're used to the man in your life being there, responding to you. I have that with my husband too. You know, if I text him and he hasn't texted back in 5 hours, I think he's dead, right? So,
yeah.
But in dating, they're not dead. They just are at work, or they are on a date, or they are out with their friends, and you're not that person for them yet. So while it may feel like, oh, they're playing games with me, they're not. They're just living their lives, and you haven't risen up to that priority level, which is not a negative thing. It's just they just met you. You shouldn't be up to that priority level yet. So there's that adjustment there of understanding where other people are coming from who may be dating for a longer period of time, but also understanding that you are rebuilding completely a connection with new people and deciding whether or not you're right for each other. One of the biggest things that I do in all of my programs, so I have a lot of online systems that I create for people. And the biggest one that I sell to people is called How to Become a Man Women Want. And I have one for women as well called That's Not How Men Work. And both of those programs start with the first section being about the individual and not even about dating, and figuring out who you are, what you want, what your boundaries are, what your values are. Because the more that you understand yourself, either after a life change or just in general, the better armed you are and equipped you are to go out into the dating world, because you know what you're looking for, you know what you'll accept and not accept, and you know what and you're willing to, what you want to pull into your life and how you want to feel and think when you're out with somebody. Because a lot of people go into dating, whether they're 25 or 65, being really wishy-washy about what they want and what they're willing to accept. And then they get into these situations where they're 3 months deep into an interaction that isn't right for them, but they've been trying to make it work for them for a really long period of time. So taking a step back, sorry, I go on to tangents, but getting to know who you are and what you want at any age is so valuable. And knowing what your values are and what values you're open to somebody else having is also extremely important, no matter what you are, no matter what age you are for dating.
Yeah, and I think as we do get older, we probably get a little bit a stronger sense of who and what we are.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so that, in a sense, is a good thing and a bad thing. It's a good thing in the sense you don't have to waste your time with people that aren't going to be a right fit. But in the other, you're a little bit more closed up to possibilities.
Absolutely. So I'll give you an example. So my friend across the street who is now dating, right? There's a lot of people that she's meeting as well who are recently divorced and are in the dating world. And everybody is in a different place and has a different want. She's realized that ultimately she is looking for another relationship, but she's open to exploring and open to other casual situations that can be fun for right now until she finds somebody else. And she keeps bumping up against these other guys who are recently divorced and who have no interest in anything serious. They need their break, but they want to enjoy people. But nobody's saying that on their profile. Nobody's saying, I just want to be casual and have lots of sex, right? That would be better if they were, but they're doing it with their behavior and their actions. And it's difficult for her as a woman to read what those actions are. So this one guy that she recently started seeing was not texting her back as often as she would like. She would text him and he would take maybe even a day to respond. And she was getting really worked up and really angry at him, because when they would see each other, they would have a great time with each other. They would have sex with each other. They would enjoy each other. But then she wouldn't hear from him for a few days. And she came over the other night, just so worked up and so insulted. And she ended up sending him a text just saying, obviously we're not on the same page. And she really wanted to tell him to go screw off. I don't know what language I can use on the show, but basically, like, because she was so angered by it. And I kept saying to her, from his actions, he's telling you what it is that he wants. He wants casual. Either that or he's just the worst communicator ever. But either way, you have every right, and I'm speaking to your audience now, every right to talk to him about that and just say, I really like to communicate with people, whether we're serious or in a casual relationship. I like open communication. And typically when I text somebody about my availability, I like to hear back from somebody within 24 hours, hopefully. And as an older person, it's easier to say those things. When you're younger, you're too afraid to say those things because you're afraid to lose that other person. But when you're older, you can say those things, and hopefully the other person as well will respect and actually admire that type of communication. So we ended up sending a different text to him rather than screw off, where she said, basically, this style of communication is not working, and it seems like they're both looking for something different. But if she's wrong about his style of communication, then hopefully they can adjust it together and work together to make something great, or they're on a different page. Anyway, it was much more succinct than that, but it basically was like a kind message that was sent across saying, if you're not looking for what I'm looking for, like, good luck to you. You're awesome and wonderful, and I'm sure you'll find somebody great. Anyway, at the end of this communication between the two of them, he ended up writing back and he said, you know what, you're absolutely right. I don't think that our communication style is mixing right now. And she asked and said, what is that? Can I just ask what that means? I just want to get a better understanding. And he said, I just am fresh out of a relationship right now, and I'm looking to get into something more casual. Having said that, I think you're absolutely amazing. And then she said, you know what? I am looking for something more serious, but I am also open to something more casual, and I enjoy my time with you. If you're open to it, I'm fine going out on dates and being intimate with each other. And they got to an understanding so that they both felt okay about what was going on, because it was clear the type of relationship that they were committing to. She didn't know before, he didn't know before, so there's all this gray space. And because they were open with each other and they talked about it in a calm way that wasn't defensive or attacking to the other person like she wanted to, they got to a place where now they can go out to plays or concerts or dinner, and they can have fun experiences with each other. And then if other people pop up in their lives that have a stronger pull on them, they'll go in that direction. They are fine being in a casual relationship because they were able to communicate about that. And I think that younger people can do that as well. But when you are older, it's easier to communicate that way and get to that place where you're okay with what's being put out there, and you can make a decision whether or not you want to engage in it.
Well, let's hear it for a good communication, because that always can make such a big difference. And, I referred to these deal breakers earlier on, and some of those deal breakers, like health can be an issue. Your financial stability. Those are things that didn't crop up quite as much when we were younger, in our 20s. In some cases, what really dominated in many ways was a physical attractability, but that's still important as we get older. But the others crop up as real important.
For sure. Well, I'll tell a situation that I have in my own life. So my husband's aunt is 72 years old. She became a widow at 65, wasn't ready to date for a while. She had been with him since she was 18 years old, which is just amazing. And her kids were not so happy about her getting back into the dating world, but eventually they were like, Mom, go out and date. Anyway, so she first met this man that she had known in high school, and they reconnected. And he had no money, but he had this energy level that was just amazing. And she loved being around him. And they would go to the theater. They would go on trips together. And she would pay for most of it. And they would just enjoy their lives, which is something she had stopped doing in her marriage, which a lot of people, they get into a rut and a routine and they have children, so they don't do as many fun things. And then their children leave the nest and it's kind of the same routine because they don't know how to get back into it. And her, husband had medical issues, so they didn't do very much. But she just loved that this man wanted to do all these things with her and show her how to live life again, so that the financial stability wasn't really a big thing. He wasn't, living on the streets and had absolutely no money, but she was the one who was pretty much taking care of them financially to go on these trips. But the fact that he was youthful, loved life, had a positive attitude was totally engaging for her. And she really liked it. They dated for about a year and then they ended their relationship. And then now she's actually dating somebody else who, this was a challenge that wasn't up on this list, but he was recently widowed, or 5 years ago, I think he was widowed. But he refused to introduce her to his family for about a year and a half. And that was really challenging, but he was financially stable. He did have good health. And the same thing that attracted her about the other guy was the fact that he still wanted to live his life and he wanted to do things and go places and be a person still, as opposed to just be sucked out of everything in life and be Mr. Negative, because I know that was listed on some of the the dating deal breakers, and that was really engaging for her. So I've noticed that as a trend in the people that I coach as well, who are in their 50s, 60s, 70s, even 80s, people that I work with, who the importance for them and the common thread that I see for them is that they still want to date people who are young at heart and want to live life. That's why I think they're coming to me and want to be dating again, because they want to enjoy the rest of their lives. They don't want to be with a bump on the log. They don't want to be with Mr. or Mrs. Negative. They, don't want to be with people who suck the energy out of them. So I think that overall, number one for anybody who is dating later in life, or even younger, to be honest, is that they want to be with people who enjoy life, at least in the beginning stages.
Well, that fits real well with Good Life Movement Plus 50, which is a big part of what we're about here at Bloomer Boomer, and good way to wrap up the discussion. Marnie, if people want to learn more about you or get help, how can they go about doing that?
Well, you can go and listen to the Ask Women podcast, and it's advice for women as well, but mainly geared towards men. Or they can go to my website, winggirlmethod.com. I have a blog on there with hundreds of articles and lots of videos that they can watch to just learn more about how to attract, date, seduce, and get and be with any woman they want, no matter how old you are.
Beautiful. Marnie, thanks so much.
Thank you.
It's a topic that we can talk about forever practically. And,
for sure.
I know we just scratched the surface, but thanks again for your time.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
It's Marty Kinrys, creator of Wing Girl Method, winggirlmethod.com. We'll be right back. Well, I hope you liked the show and you learned a thing or two. The full show will be available on YouTube and at Bloomer Boomer. The audio version will be available on Apple Podcasts or iTunes. And we have other shows coming up with some amazing guests. Please like us on Facebook and visit us at bloomerboomer.com. So long.